Your uni years are not always the best years of your life, and I'm guessing you've clicked on this video because either you are considering whether or not to go to uni, you're not sure, you're weighing up the options, or you've been to uni and you're thinking it wasn't a great time, they weren't the best years of my life, even though society often, and certainly when I was in sixth form, was told that going to uni was so fun. You know, you gained independence, you made new friends, you found more out about yourself, you discovered yourself. And of course that is true, but me personally, I feel like I found out more about myself and I healed more and I grew more after I finished uni. And actually I took a gap year between finishing sixth form and going to uni, and I absolutely thrived. So uni years are not always the best time of your life, and personally for me, those 4 years of my life, I was probably the saddest I've ever been in my whole life. I was so in the depths of despair. I hated myself, I didn't like myself, I had low self-esteem, I didn't have any boundaries, I didn't have any self-confidence. So I'm not gonna lie, for me, uni actually exacerbated pre-existing problems, pre-existing mental health issues and pre-existing insecurities that I already had. And I feel like if I had not gone to uni, I probably would have actually thrived more. I wouldn't have been in this constant survival mode for 4 years. Like I said, I was truly thriving during my gap year. So I finished school, and sixth form was literally one of the hardest periods of time in my life. I remember having absolutely no boundaries when it came to studying. I remember literally going to a family dinner around Christmas, and I had like my laptop under the table finishing off an essay. And because I felt like I constantly had to be doing work, I was procrastinating loads, I was never giving myself a break. I pretty much had burnout, I now realise, from 16 to 23, but definitely in those 2 years of sixth form, and I'm sure many of you can attest to this, it was horrible and it was really hard. And I'm not gonna lie, I suffered, and my mental health was on the fucking floor. Because of this, I was like, I'm gonna have a gap year, I'm gonna have a break, I'm gonna defer my uni and take time off. And I went traveling. I went to Berlin. I did a German course in Berlin for 2 months. Amazing. Made some great friends, was really thriving, loved the fashion, felt like I was free, and I was still studying, so I still made a bit of effort, but it wasn't nearly as much pressure as obviously something like A-levels or something like a degree. Same with, you know, I went interrailing, I went around Europe with one of my friends at the time. I went to Asia, I went to Malaysia, Singapore and Thailand, and it was amazing. And I did a little bit of work. I actually saved up for 6 months before I went. So I did kind of enjoy work as well. I worked through school, and I worked obviously 6 months before I took my gap year. So that was fun, and I really enjoyed myself. And I kind of think about that time and realising probably I was on that upward trajectory. I was healing and I was growing and I was glowing up. And then getting to uni, I just came all the way back down again, like if not further. Like I absolutely hit rock bottom, definitely in probably third and fourth year. And I think about that person and it makes me so cross, because I think, had I not maybe had the pressure or feeling that I needed to go to uni in order to feel validation or to feel like I could be successful, because I feel like the pressure as well is that, like, you know, if you don't go to uni, you don't get a degree, you're going to find it harder to be successful, get to where you want to be. And it's just not true. I'm not going to lie, and I will get into this, but my uni degree frankly did not equip me for being a business owner. It did not equip me for being an entrepreneur. It did not equip me for really the world of work. What happened outside of my studies probably did, but the studies I don't think they helped personally for me at all. If I think about it on a scale, say if I said that minus 100 was rock bottom and plus 100 was like truly thriving, I would say I hit rock bottom third or fourth year, so when I was about 22, 23, and it took me probably till 25 to get to 0, and now I'm at a point where I'm kind of towards the plus end, you know, I'm on the 60s, 70s. Fortunately, I truly am like enjoying my life and I feel so good about myself, but fuck me, I was at minus 100 in my early 20s. And yeah, my mental health, I had depression, I had anxiety. To be honest with you, I feel like uni exacerbated, like I said, my pre-existing mental health problems. So for example, I had problems with using drink and using food to cope with how I felt and feeling shit. So I kind of binge on sweets, chocolate crisps. I wouldn't eat very well. I go out for dinner a lot. I was swollen a lot of the time. So I struggle with body image. And again, just the sheer amount of people that you have access to when you go to uni. I'm from a small town in Dorset. Like, you know, we're big fish in a little pond. Going to uni completely threw me off, and it was the first time I was confronted with just comparison culture, feeling inadequate, feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I had access to all these people's Instagrams. I was seeing their life. They were like thriving as well at uni, and I just thought, what's wrong with me? What's going on with me? I didn't feel attractive. I, like I said, had problems with like body image. So having access to like how literally everybody else at my uni kind of looked, and you know, I remember guys in my dorm were like fucking thirsting over these women in my year and thinking, oh, I'm just like, don't look like that, and I don't feel like that, I'm not that confident. And that was hard. And I think, again, just because I already had those pre-existing feelings of inadequacy in the way that I looked, it just made it worse being in a place like that. And I think obviously from like a sort of exposure therapy point of view, it's probably good because it forced me to heal. It forced me to not seek validation for my appearance or external validation and that kind of thing. But it doesn't obviously negate the fact that at the time that was quite hard, and that was very overwhelming coming from like a small town. On that feeling of inadequacy, I already felt like I wasn't clever enough in sixth form, but then going to uni, I think Manchester in general as a city has the biggest student population in the country, so I was kind of aware of how well other people were doing, and just feeling that comparison feeling come up and wanting to, and thinking that I wasn't good enough. Not only the comparison side, or thinking that I, you know, still wasn't clever and like didn't even deserve to be there, having like that imposter syndrome. I also struggled to set boundaries and have self-discipline when it came to self-care. So I would constantly, again, perpetuate the same patterns I had in sixth form, which is to like grind, keep going, burn myself out, procrastinate, then think that I wasn't doing well enough, and just get into this horrible cycle of just having like no boundaries with study time and time to myself, no self-care in sight. It was just a mess. And I just honestly can't help but think that if I wasn't in this environment where comparison was rife, competing with other people in terms of studies, I'm not gonna lie, the people that got the highest grades in first year would go to their top picks of university in America. So I was doing a year abroad in third year. The feeling of like competing with people around me for these universities that I wanted to get into, like New York and LA, like only the cleverest people were going to get into those top choice ones because everyone's going to pick those. And just again feeling like I'm never going to be getting to the university that I want to get to because I just haven't got the grades and I'm not clever enough, and having those kind of self-deprecating thoughts. Being in that environment, being in the environment of drinking, being in the environment of like not really caring about what you eat, just set me up for failure, because I already had these pre-existing insecurities, these pre-existing feelings. And yes, I get it, because sometimes I'm grateful for the exposure part. Like I am grateful that I went to uni because it forced me to grow, or at least forced me to grow afterwards. But it doesn't stop it from being such a painful thing to look back on, because I honestly can't work out if uni held me back. I can't work out if, had I not gone to uni, I would be more confident now, I would be more self-assured now, because I just wouldn't have had that massive setback. I can't help but think that had I not gone to uni, I might be in a better position now in terms of confidence, in terms of self-esteem, in terms of putting myself out there, in terms of actual business knowledge. You know, I could have joined a firm straight out of uni and actually decided, look, I want to learn this, I want to understand what it's like to be a business owner, I want to understand the real work that is required to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner. I know quite a few people from my town who didn't go to uni and started their own businesses, and they're really thriving now. And I think about that, and I look at that and I think, did I waste all that time? Like not doing what I wanted to do, truly, because I wanted to seek validation. I wanted to sort of prove to other people and myself that I could do a degree, that I could go to a Russell Group uni. Like all of this is based on ego. If I'm being honest with myself, would I have even gone had it not been just to do what everybody else approved of and to have an ego boost because, oh, I went to a Russell Group and I got a degree from there? Like, did it benefit me though? And I kind of know this as well, just from my own experience post-uni, learning from being in a startup as well. Basically 2.5 of the companies that I worked for were startups, and it was really invaluable because I got to learn what it takes to be in a startup. I would have access to the CEO, so I was really sort of learning from them, learning how they did the marketing, learning how they did the ops, learning how they did the sort of financial side as well. And working close to CEOs has been like really valuable for me. Part of my job as you know, is content creation and learning from that, learning entrepreneurial tips and tricks and making yourself your own boss through content creation. It has been a massive learning curve. I would have never learnt that at uni. I didn't learn that at uni. And there would never be a course on that. The one thing in terms of education that I massively value from uni was not even at the uni that I went to in the UK, but the one I went to on my year abroad. I went to the University of Washington on my year abroad, amazing uni, and I started a business as part of a module or a class that I did in America on my course that was starting a company, and it was real life stuff. We had to pitch for money, we were given actual money because there was a fund as part of the class, and we learned how to market, we learned how to create a product, we learned how to negotiate with manufacturers. I really genuinely saw for the first time the practical use of financial accounting, which again, I had no context about financial accounting when I'd learned it at uni, that it didn't mean anything to me. Learning how to create those sort of 3 financial statements that are required in a business, those kind of things. I learned that on the job. I learned that by doing or literally creating a startup with 4 other people. I pitched, we did competitions, we won money. I would never have learnt that in my UK uni. I just wouldn't have, because there wouldn't have been that option. And it's such a shame, because I feel like apart from that, which to be honest with you was massively my own initiation. I went to America wanting to start a business, so I was looking out for the opportunity, and it was really weird actually, because when I got there I wanted to start a lingerie company. Before I got there I was like, this is going to be a really great idea, and when I got there I pitched myself obviously in front of the class, because you had to sort of work out who you wanted to be with, and 2 people came over to me and said, we're actually thinking about doing a lingerie company. And I was like, what? Love it when the universe does that. Love it when the universe puts you with people that also want to do the same thing as me. And I think that's really where my true education came from, was in that year. Outside of that though, it was all theoretical. I really couldn't tell you what I learned, to be honest. Maybe a bit of accounting. Again, I'd be rusty on it though. I did a lot of history modules, I did a bit of accounting, I did social corporate responsibility, ethics. I did a lot of that kind of thing. I wouldn't say I learned a lot of practical things that are required when you do start a company, and I really look at that and I think I did a business degree. Like if I was going to go to uni and just do something for fun, which I probably should have done, I should have done history, because actually I probably would have really enjoyed that. Whereas with the business stuff, I went to business school to learn how to create a business, and frankly I've still had to learn on the job now, and learn from other people, and learn from work, and learn from doing it practically. And I wasn't able to learn that stuff theoretically. I don't think it equipped me to be a business owner at all, despite the name of the degree. I think as well, uni exacerbated things that were distractions, such as drinking, going out, going to parties. And yeah, okay, fine, granted they are fun, like I really love that stuff. But now I kind of realised that when I did these things, my heart wasn't in it. Like I didn't really want to go out drinking that much. Like I wanted to have time on my own, and I didn't honour that. So the socialisation part was fine, but it was a bit of a distraction, especially in 4th year. So when I was 22, I came back from America, I actually started doing my YouTube properly, like I really started going for it. And in final year, I just got distracted with boys, I got distracted with going out. For example, I'd get drunk quite a lot, like really properly drunk. I would, hang out with guys, spend time with them instead of focusing on my studies, to be honest, and focusing on getting YouTube videos out, spending the time to edit. Like I did try and do it, but I ended up just giving up because I just was focused so much on the sort of social side and drinking, and kind of look at that. And I think being at uni, you kind of do get distracted by those kind of things, when really I probably should have been focused. I mean, I wanted to be focused, but I would get distracted and I would avoid working towards my goals because I just wanted to get distracted. I wanted to forget everything. I wanted to just be free of the pressure. Again, had I not gone to uni, I wouldn't have been sort of distracted by those things. I would have probably been a lot more focused. I know this is the case for me now. Like I literally live where I'm from originally, in Dorset right now, and I'm distraction free. I literally go to work for 4 days, come home and do all the activities that I absolutely love doing towards my goals. I do see friends occasionally, but again, my circle has massively shrunk since focusing on my goals, and I'm very much able to keep those blinkers on. So if I think about that and being at uni, I feel like it doesn't really set you up to be focused. It doesn't really set you up to work towards your goals, because you are engaging in those activities that aren't good habits. And again, drinking and so on, it would wipe me out for several days. And so by the time I'd recovered, I then just had to go back to uni, and I couldn't even think about filming a YouTube video or making any content because I'd just been wiped all weekend. I don't know, I just feel like that personally for me, it's like held me back, and I look at that and I think, oh, what are we doing? Like there were so many more important things. And I know it's like, all right, you know, looking back and being like, I should have done this, should have done that, and like it was part of the journey, yeah, fine, but I wish I didn't do that. I regret the drinking and the sort of overeating, or at least using eating as a way of coping with my experience at uni, because I experienced acne. I will put it on the screen. I had really bad acne, and it started in first year of uni. Got so bad. I had social anxiety, couldn't fucking look people in the eye. My confidence was absolutely rock bottom, and I was swollen. I was constantly anxious, constantly on edge. Honestly, I would have anxiety attacks on the daily. I would have physical anxiety, like my body just wouldn't stop, like, you know, being, you know what it's like when you have physical anxiety, like you can't control it. And I had that so badly in fourth year especially, and through all of that anxiety, my body was inflamed. And on top of that, with this sort of eating to cope, I was overweight for my frame. I was swollen, I was overweight, I had acne, I looked fucking miserable, I had bags under my eyes. All of those bad habits contributed to obviously physically not being healthy, but also not feeling attractive either. And then that exacerbated my feelings of body image and not feeling confident, not feeling attractive enough, not feeling pretty, because I was so aware of like what was going on internally, and it just showed externally. It showed that I was suffering. I resent that. Like, I resent the fact that uni or the lifestyle that is, you know, when you are at uni anyway, or certainly when I went, had all these sort of knock-on effects for my health. And I think I resented myself as well, because I wasn't working towards my goals even though I wanted to. I found it really difficult to go to the gym. I was not moving forward with my gym goals at all. I literally remember after coming back from America, and fully, I think, to be honest with you, fourth year as well, the diet in America is so bad. Like, I made myself ill, and I think it took me definitely about two-ish years for my body to heal from all the processed food I've been eating so often in America. Like, it's basically impossible to be healthy in America. I genuinely don't know how people do it. Like, everything is made up and full of shit. Obviously, coming back to the UK and like having that diet, it was great, but the problem is, for example, I was like addicted to exercise during COVID. I would do really intense mountain biking every day. I was doing the Chloe Ting challenge, which are like intense in itself. You know, I'd spend probably an hour doing that per day, so I was doing about 2 or 3 hours of exercise per day, and my body really just wasn't changing. And I had, you know, I was eating better. My parents eat very well, so I was eating what they had in their fridge because I was living at home. And yeah, it just made basically no difference because my mental health was so bad, and I had ruined my body so much from the processed food in America that it, like, the exercise that I was doing and even the better eating habits didn't really make a difference at all until a lot later, when I was like 24 and I came out of uni. And that's when I realised, you know, my spots started to clear up. I started to drop down to a healthier weight. I didn't even try. It was like my body was like, ah, oh, finally, we're free. We can be safe, and we're safe here. And my weight just dropped naturally. I didn't even have to try. And that's when I knew that, you know, the habits that I had or the lifestyle I'd had while I was at uni was probably the cause for my acne, for my bags under my eyes. I was sleeping so badly in uni as well, and just obviously my swollen state. I was in denial for a while. I was like, yeah, uni was sick, like I loved it. When people would ask me how was uni, I'd just be very positive about it. And it was the first time when I was like, hang on, my health has massively improved since finishing. What's going on? And obviously on reflection now, 3 years on, I can definitely say that the lifestyle was the reason for my lack of health. Last year, I went through a period of time of deciding to walk away from quite a few friendships, and the majority of those people were people that I met at uni. Because the people that I met at uni, apart from my American friends and a handful of friends from my UK uni, were people who were aligned with me when I was at my saddest self, when I was at my lowest point. And the people around me who kind of I was attracted to, and they may be attracted to me, in terms of friendship, were people that were aligned with this version of me that was unhappy, this version of me that had no boundaries, this version of me that didn't have high self-esteem. And obviously then developing self-esteem, working through it post-uni, those people unfortunately are no longer aligned. I was constantly on edge with quite a few people. I don't think, obviously looking back though, some of them were very nice people anyway. And again, I look back and think, I met these people at uni. I was drawn to these people. I was shoved into, you know, a proximate place with these people. We happened to be at the same uni, but other than that, we had very little in common. I wish I didn't go to uni sometimes, because then I wouldn't have met those people. And obviously we can always say, yeah, but you probably would have met other people like that, but maybe they wouldn't have been at uni, it would have been something else. But I just, again, on top of everything else, you know, I probably would have had better eating habits. I wouldn't have been as sad as I was. I wouldn't have been overwhelmed with just the comparison side of uni and just being overwhelmed with, again, like relationships with men. I think that was another thing that I really grappled with through uni. I was in just such strong limerence state. I was in limerence throughout probably most of uni. I remember literally at one point, I remember saying to this person that I'd met there, he was giving the energy that he kind of fancied me a bit, and then I fancied him a bit back, and I told him that I liked him. And then the moment that I told him I liked him, he basically just started being really weird with me. And I remember like going to this event of some kind, and he was kind of dancing with somebody else. I remember I just went to the quad to like this step, I think, and I just bawled my eyes out for about an hour straight. Like, I've never cried so much. Like, it was just all this trauma that I'd had with men, and thinking that I was inadequate, thinking that I wasn't good enough. All of that just came flooding out. And there was another time as well when I really liked somebody else, and again, they wanted somebody else. It made me just feel so inadequate. It made me feel like so unattractive, because I already felt like that anyway. And again, I cried and cried and cried. I remember literally thinking, I'm never going to stop crying, because I don't feel the need to stop crying. You know, usually when you cry and you kind of like, okay, I'm done now, like I've got it out. There never came that point this particular time. I just stopped eventually because I realised that I couldn't carry on. It was just horrible. I remember just like feeling so unwanted, not desired at all. And that really was awful, because I think again, through school, I kind of not really had that problem before, and uni I was really faced with the fact that I probably wanted to be desired, and I wasn't desired as much as I wanted to be desired. So the limerence state really took hold, and it fucked my self-esteem so much. My self-esteem was low anyway because of mental health problems and feeling like I wasn't good enough at school, feeling like, as well, I found it really difficult to make friends initially, and I was never somebody, and I still don't consider myself somebody that finds it difficult to make friends. I usually make friends quite easily because I'm quite extroverted, and you know, I ask people questions and stuff. I found it really difficult to find my tribe for a long time when I was in uni, and again, I kind of just sort of fell into friendships rather than was intentional. Having those feelings which I'd never experienced before, of like finding it hard to find friends and people that I actually gelled with. Having that on top of also feeling like this sort of insecurity around men and not feeling attractive enough and that kind of thing. And it's crazy thinking about that now, because I don't feel like that anymore. I definitely feel like anybody who is with me is so lucky. Anybody that gets to date me is so lucky. I definitely don't feel like I did then. But at the time, I would have the opposite view. I'd be like, oh God, I'm so lucky that I'm going on a date. I'm so lucky that somebody's noticed me. Like, the fuck? No. But having that feeling, and feeling like that was exacerbated by, you know, times when I would get rejected. My rejection wound just got exacerbated so much. Like, I already had it through childhood experiences as well. Getting to uni, I realised that's just not how the world works. Like, most of the time, the people that you like don't like you back. And that was a really hard pill to swallow. And again, it kind of exacerbated the rejection wound, whereas I just don't feel like I would have had that necessarily had I not gone to uni, because again, it's such a stark comparison. I think had I moved to, you know, Manchester, moved to a city, I would have just met people naturally. There wouldn't have been this sort of like energy of school, but on a bigger scale, you know, people being obsessed with popularity, people being obsessed with being known, and who's the hottest girl in our year, like that. It's like school, but like 10 times worse, and it was already bad at school. So it just made it so much worse. Whereas I think if I'd moved to a city, been like, yeah, I'm going to do my own business, I'm going to be, you know, my own person, I'm going to work myself up and learn these skills, I just don't think I would have had that overwhelming like sort of experience of just feeling a tiny fish in a massive pond. And certainly now I have worked through a lot of that sort of comparison feeling. Unfortunately, as a Gen Z kind of generation, we are confronted with social media, which is always like a breeding ground for comparison, but knowing what comparison is, where it comes from, has been so vital. But I just didn't have those tools at the time. And I think as well, like I said, kind of talking about studying and just constantly feeling like I had to work, being able to develop your boundaries with work and studying, being able to prioritize self-care is something that, again, I really have had to force myself to do, and I just wasn't very good at it at uni. So I just basically never looked after myself. I didn't think I was valuable enough to look after myself because I had so much on my plate. I was worried about my appearance, worried about being lonely, worried about fitting in, worried about being attractive, worried about my studies, worried about doing side hustles and having other jobs and getting experience, like all of that combined in one place, and literally having no support whatsoever because you're on your own, you're independent, you're, you know, trying to cook for yourself. Everything kind of happens at once. I think that's the thing with uni, that it's such an overwhelming thing. You know, you're moving to a new city, you're having to learn to like do things for yourself for the first time. Many of us are, some of us aren't. You're having to look after yourself mentally, you're having to look after your studies and care about your grades, you're having to be, you know, work on your confidence and self-esteem. Like, it's just a lot, like it's a lot all at once. Obviously I'm very intentional about my friends now, I'm very deliberate with who I choose to let in. I think that's a very good thing. And like overall, you know, I know that I obviously wrote the title of the videos, I regret going to uni, but I'm grateful for what it taught me. I wish I didn't have to go through it, but I can't change that now. So all I can do is look at it and think, this benefited me. I'm glad that I had this journey because it led me to where I am today. And as much as that can be comforting, there's only so far we can go when it comes to, oh, I'm so grateful for my trauma because then it's taught me this. Like, there's only so far you can go, because personally for me, I feel like uni held me back. I do. And it took me a long time to recover from my experience at uni, physically, mentally, honestly, spiritually, in terms of my relationships and my friendships with people. It took me probably till now to get to a point where I am looking after my body, I have self-discipline, I'm working on my goals. I don't really study obviously anymore, I've done my degree, I have very intentional friendships, I found love. It's taken me 3 years to recover from that. Uni is a bit weird, it's like a captive audience. It's like I said, high school, but on steroids. That's just not what life's like. I have got to a point now where I'm like, yeah, I've accepted that it wasn't like the best time of my life. I think for a long time I was in denial. Anyway, that is it for today's video. I hope you kind of saw some value in it. I hope it maybe not necessarily reassured you, but just gave, you know, some indication of what uni can be like. It's not always, you know, rainbows and sunshines. It can be difficult. So if you are considering going to uni, definitely take people's experiences on board. It's not for everybody. Coming from like a creative person, somebody who wants to be their own boss, do their own thing, uni can be quite restrictive and regimented, a bit like school. But, you know, fine, if that serves you, then like I back it. You know, everybody's different. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you that interacts with my YouTube videos. It means absolutely everything to me, really, really does. Anyway, with that, I will see you in my next video. Bye.